it never started off as something that I was like, I want to make this my business. It started off purely as a hobby, but I've just kind of taken it to the nth degree and kept on putting more and more time into it. And it's not been out of like, I must make this work. It's just been more out of like, oh, wow, this is going quite well. And so, yeah, maybe not the typical entrepreneur from that perspective, but like, yeah, I have found as I've dug deeper into it, the scope just keeps on getting bigger.
Before we get into the episode, I just want to say a big thanks to my mate Andrew here at Airwolf Forest Motor Company for supporting the episode and the podcast.
We specialise in high-performance British, American and European cars. As a listener and a supporter of David Mel's podcast, I'd invite any listeners to get in touch, have a look at our website, www.efmc.co.nz. Come and see what we've got out here and we'll take care of you.
Hello and welcome to the 10 Million in 10 Years podcast. I'm David, your host, and I've got Duncan Wood with me today. Welcome, mate.
Kia ora. How you doing?
First podcast.
This is my first podcast. I appeared on a radio show with Staffy, who does a section on Sens, sports radio, and that got turned into a podcast, but it's my first dedicated one.
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So we met through the gym, had a real good chat straight off the bat. It was awesome.
We did.
Had you been listening to the podcast?
I'd come across your content on Instagram.
Right.
I think maybe the ad for the loft might have popped up on my
gotcha.
feed.
Yep.
And I just recognised you and I thought,
cool.
Might as well introduce myself.
I love it. Absolutely amazing. And then we sort of got chatting, got to hear a bit about what you're up to in the next couple of years, which is super awesome. Talking about your business, which we'll get into in a minute. But I just liked your vibe. I thought, and then we found out the West Coast connection.
Mate, everyone's got a West Coast connection. It's not usually this close.
No.
But yeah, what a place.
But here we are.
Yeah.
So tell us about your business, man. I loved hearing about this. This is just like an outlier type thing, but such a beautiful entrepreneurial story from like an idea to something and now scale. So
sure,
give us the rundown.
So my business is called Boomfa Vintage, and as you can tell by what I'm wearing, you might consider myself either the best or the worst dressed person on this podcast. But I sell vintage rugby jerseys.
Yeah.
So it all kind of started in a shared flat on Kilmore Street, and it was my collection. So I was I'm a rugby fanatic and have been since I was 4 years old, and was just collecting old vintage jerseys, the thick cotton ones that you might find in your dad's closet in the deep drawers. And I started an Instagram page to kind of show off my collection, and then I was following other people who were doing the same and like big collectors, and thought, I can spot a bit of value here. And so I hopped on Trade Me and kind of bought ones that I thought were undervalued, and then started selling them through the page. And that was 3 years ago now. So it's kind of morphed and evolved, and I've learned a lot with it, and now got a website, and I'm even selling like brand new apparel now. So I guess I've gone from being like a hobbyist to a page, and then now a retailer. So
amazing. Yeah. And so where are you at sort of currently, roughly like split between the new stuff, the used? What's the sort of mixture there?
Yeah, so it's hard to say. I mean, over the last year, probably 60% vintage, 40% new. But then if you looked at it over the last 2 to 3 months, it would be like 70% new and 30% vintage, just because my kind of relationship with classic sportswear only started a few months ago. So it's definitely trending that way. But I think for me, the vintage jerseys will always be the passion. I have a lot of them on the website, so they're what kind of draws people in. You can imagine if you're searching on boomfavintage.com, there's over 150 vintage jerseys, and there's only like 4 or 5 new ones. But of course, I've got multiple units of the new ones. So the vintage stuff is kind of what draws people in and like hooks them into the page, and the content brings them in. And then the new stuff is obviously a lot easier to fulfill, because you're only going to take photos of one product instead of one individual listing for each product. So I think having a balance of the two will be how it continues in future.
Yeah, amazing. And so what's the variation in price? Like was it a record last night?
Last night was a big record by a big margin.
Wow.
So I mean, so you're talking about the 1996 Crusaders player issue jersey.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yes, that one sold for just over $2,500 last night.
Wow.
That's by no means what a normal jersey on my website would sell for. I think the average sale price for a jersey would be about $210 for, a vintage jersey. But that one in particular, it was the first season of the Crusaders. It was actually like a player issue one that would have been worn by the team throughout that year. So it's basically one of one. Yeah. There's only one number 21 out there.
Yeah.
And so it's probably the gem of the person who bought its collection now.
Yeah, right.
And I was actually selling that one on behalf of another collector. So they approached me, they were trying to trim down, and I said, sure, I can do it for a commission, for the marketing. So I made up a video and get the buyers interested.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm looking to do more of in future, and like a new kind of business angle for me. So super exciting.
Wicked.
And I just love getting a piece like that, and it's really special just to even have it for a couple of days.
What would be the most valuable, or one of the most valuable pieces either out there in the world or just within the sort of community that you're aware of? Like, does anything come to mind, like a certain vintage, certain era, certain team?
Well, I'll get onto the replicas soon, but I actually was doing some research the other day on the most expensive rugby jersey that's ever been sold, and it was a 1973 Barbarians jersey worn by Gareth Edwards.
Oh yeah.
And he scored a very famous try in it. It was called the try from the end of the world against the All Blacks, actually.
Right.
And that sold for £240,000.
Wow.
So just shy of $500,000.
Yeah,
so,
right.
it's pretty hard to quantify what some of these things are worth, and it's really whatever the person will pay for it, or if there's two people bidding against each other, they can just skyrocket, because it's like a certain type of car. If a collector wants it and there are two people who are fighting over it, they got deep pockets and their kind of egos involved, they can just go as high as either of them can afford. So
totally, yeah. I was thinking about this recently, not so much jerseys, but just how the psychology, I think it was regarding property, but in like an auction, say, scenario, especially if it's like a charity type auction thing, that could really just escalate out of control, right? With the combination of egos, alcohol, bragging rights, there's so many things that could influence that price, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So I'd love to get in, one day to have some kind of angle where I can, approach players and get match-worn jerseys and have like a charity auction aspect to the business, and
cool.
Go out to those dinners and auction them off. That'd be really fun. So
so much scope, right?
Yeah, well, there is. I mean, it never started off as something that I was like, I want to make this my business. It started off purely as a hobby, but I've just taken it to the nth degree and kept on putting more and more time into it. And it's not been out of I must make this work. It's just been more out of oh wow, this is going quite well. And so maybe not the typical entrepreneur from that perspective, but I have found as I've dug deeper into it, the scope just keeps on getting bigger, which is maybe what a lot of other people find. I saw your content about the guy cleaning cars. I can't remember his name.
Oakley.
Yeah, Oakley. And he's digging into that and just finding so much scope within it too. So I guess it goes to show if you put time, effort, and energy into anything, opportunities kind of appear that you could never have predicted.
It can work, yeah. It seems like you're having fun though. I think that's something that really shines through, is that you're genuinely just enjoying the journey. Yeah. And I could be wrong, and I'm sure there's moments that aren't so much fun, but
yeah,
you seem to be enjoying it for the most part.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's always been the reason for it. And you don't see, I do put some content up about me folding the jerseys and photographing them and stuff. That can get a bit mundane, don't get me wrong, but there's always scope to kind of get other people involved to do that later on. But fun's always been at the heart of it, and I try to keep that at the heart of the content, and I think that's what people kind of resonate with.
Nice. How'd that billboard experience go recently?
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah.
That
came about with the boys down at Anthony and Mates, who I have a wee catch up with occasionally, Clive and Pete down there, and Matt. And we were having a pint the night before down at the Victoria Free House, a great establishment in Christchurch.
Yeah. Is it good?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I really like their Instagram.
Yeah, it's got a great old-timey English pub vibe and a great Sunday roast.
Yeah,
so
cool.
definitely worth checking out. And a good pint of Guinness.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were just catching up, and I had a bit of a challenge because I had quite a bit of this new stock left, and, it's my first time selling multiple SKUs of the same unit. Multiple units of the same SKU. And Pete just comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "You should get a billboard, mate." And I was like, "No way, that'd cost way too much for what I'm trying to say." He's like, "Nah, mate, we could do it for a pretty decent price. I reckon a couple of $100. I was like, "Really? For how long?" And he's like, "You get it up for tomorrow. I'll give the people at Vast a call tomorrow." So Vast Billboards. Sure enough, comes back in the morning, fire through the creative, and I go over to Morehouse Ave in the afternoon. It's up on a billboard.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of a cool, a big full circle moment, but also. I thought to myself, even if the people driving home on their daily commute don't go to my website and buy a jersey, I can make an awesome Instagram reel about it, and that'll, get a few eyeballs. So it's kind of two angles to it, and I think the Instagram content rated way higher than the billboard itself.
There's so many elements to unpack with that. One is like just being with mates that love making things happen.
Yep,
that's one. Two, like knowing where to go to, like, having the connections at Vast, like that's good. And then like three, technology, having the ability to do that, like if it wasn't for digital, you could never do a traditional billboard for a day, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be viable.
No.
So.
No, I mean, the cost to print something that size would be massive.
Exactly, yeah. So that's three good wins.
I'd say. And I will say I've noticed around Christchurch the number of digital billboards has increased massively in the last year.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, it's a real good opportunity for local businesses, I think.
Yeah.
And, especially if you got because for me it was the fact that the Crusaders were about to get eliminated. It wasn't a great season.
Right.
And I had a few of their jerseys left, so it was like, how do I get rid of them? And their final game was that Friday. It was Wednesday, so there was a bit of time urgency. So it's like if you're throwing an event and you need lots of people there, I don't know if it's a music festival or even something at your local hospitality venue, it's like, hey, a billboard could be a great way to get some eyeballs on it in the lead up to it.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue with that vehicle, that traffic, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do you know how much it is per day? Cars go by?
I've got no idea.
It's a big number.
This was a decision made at the Victoria Free House, David, so there's no data behind it.
There was no data. There's no think tanking.
No, definitely not.
No, I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, it must be. I mean, you see the traffic there at like 5 p.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning, and it's pretty.
I'm thinking like 20,000 a day.
Yeah.
Something like that. Sounds about right.
Yeah, I might have to do some retrospective data collection on it.
Yeah, after the fact.
Yeah,
so good. And so you've got a pretty exciting couple of years coming up. We've got some travel, a few other things. Yes. Tell us about that. That's good. It's just something that I love about the podcast is the ability to create a time capsule that we can look back on.
Yeah, for sure.
And then potentially down the road do a anniversary edition, right? So
you
can come
true.
back and go, shit, I remember that back then.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, back when I just launched the classic sportswear line. Something like that. Okay, so my year coming up. Well, I'm leaving. So I still work full time. So Boomfa Vintage is taking up my evenings currently, my weekends, which is great. But my fiance has just moved to Auckland to take up a really cool opportunity with the spin-off there. So she's the commercial editor, and we've been doing long distance for the last couple of months. But I'll be leaving my job in sales to join her. But in the meantime, so I'm leaving at the start of August, and we're doing 3.5 months of travel. So we're going over to South America for just under a month, and then to Europe for a friend's wedding, America for another one, and lives from Washington, D.C., so we'll see her family, and then over to Thailand for a little bit. And that's actually semi-business related because my main supplier of vintage rugby jerseys is based over there. So I'm hoping to go and spend a couple of days with him, and that's a whole nother story about, and we can get into that later around like where secondhand jerseys come from and secondhand clothing market. But yeah, so Thailand and then back to New Zealand. And then I'll be moving straight up to Auckland. So, yeah, we're driving up the car before we go and bunging our stuff into a storage unit and then just straight into it.
So good.
Yeah, and then after that, we're getting married in mid-2025. So, yeah, really exciting to be planning that with Liv, and a few challenges, but, as with anything great that you're trying to organise, it's going to be a cool journey and a worthwhile event. So yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah, with anything like that's extravagant or like somebody that's doing some extended travel, shortly use the term like dangerous. It's not necessarily like dangerous toward your safety or life, but it's a dangerous. It's not the safe option, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
true.
I really like that. It resonated with me.
Yeah.
And it just made me think about people that are doing things that are dangerous.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. It was, I guess, non-traditional.
Non-traditional. Exactly.
I think by and large, I have taken the traditional path until I started Boomfa, and my dad's a doctor, my mum's a teacher, and I grew up on the West Coast, like you.
Hey.
So a lot of people in that kind of mindset, which is, if it works for you, it's awesome. And I know so many people who are like really happy doing what they do, and they're really good at what they do, and they find fulfillment in it. And that was kind of the example that was set for me. So, I went to boarding school over here in Christchurch, then went to university, got my degree in economics, and then got into I did 1 year abroad and came back and got into a corporate sales role, and I've kind of stuck in there for the last 7 odd years. And then, Boomfa was a side thing, and that's inspired a bit of non-traditional thinking. And now I'm at the point where it's like, where can I take this? So I've got the confidence, I think, to try to do things a little bit out of the box. And next year, this next 12 months is going to be like a big experiment. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think experiment's a good word,
Yeah.
Applying the scientist-based line of thinking, whereas like you test, measure, iterate, try something, fail, try again, go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and my thought, I haven't fully committed to it yet, but I'm kind of getting closer to it every day. And my thought is to take Boomfa Vintage full time when I get back. So I'll be, it's becoming more comfortable. It was quite uncomfortable to think about that like a few months ago, but it's getting more like, this could work.
Yeah,
and
you got a bit of public accountability now.
Yeah,
it's happening. If it's on the podcast, that's real.
If it's on the podcast, it's happening. Yeah. So, and my thought process is like, brings in enough to keep the lights on at the very least. And then if in 6 months' time it's like, hey, this isn't working, you can always go back to the old way of doing things, right? So,
totally.
Get back from the travels, give it a crack. And then if by the time we get married, it's like, hey, I want to go back to the way things were, then you can. It's the beauty of life, right?
It's absolutely true. And I think this is really exciting to really, specifically have this to look back on, right? And to really reminisce on this phase that you're going through, because it is quite a big decision, right?
Yeah,
it's
huge.
It's a big step. But I think with the right people around you and with the right like logic in place, which it seems like you've got, it's not like it's a crazy wild card move.
No.
Right? Like you've got momentum, you've got data on what you've been doing to date. So it's not that crazy, right?
Yeah. And I think, there's the entrepreneurial path of like, which maybe is the one that you see in the movies more, which is like drop everything, drop out of uni, take on this crazy idea that no one believes in and make it happen. And, that works for some people. But for me, it's pretty measured, and like, I'm over 3 years in now of this, it was a side hustle and it's grown since then. But, I've got some tangible evidence, and I've got a following now. I'm not starting the marketing from zero. So, as you say, it's not like a complete risk. There's a bit of data behind it, so that gives me a bit of confidence.
Yeah. What are your friends mostly? Are they generally employed, entrepreneurs, bit of both, self-employed? What are they doing? Mostly
employed, yeah.
Yeah.
But then I guess going to IHF, I've met quite a few people who are self-employed. A mix of both though. I'm now thinking like more broadly. My best mate from high school is a broadcaster, so he worked for News Hub for many years. Then my other best mate works in Apple sales. So, but a corporate job. Sounds super niche, but New Zealand exports a lot of apples, so he's got some good niche knowledge. Yeah,
Apple.
Not Apple.
Not this guy.
No, not Steve Jobs.
Yeah, gotcha.
So like,
Apples.
fruit. But I mean, like agriculture is huge in New Zealand, right?
Yeah, totally.
So that's what he does. So yeah,
bit of a mix.
Yeah, works.
Nice.
And I got a few mates who are in the trades who run their own building companies, and yeah,
nice. Yeah, I like it. And have you met a few new people through the gym?
I have.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I was shooting some video content with Ben, who's been on the podcast.
Yeah, nice.
The other night,
Love it.
and yeah, he's awesome at his work and super quick turnaround, super responsive. So, I'm really seeing a bit of value through that network.
Is that the first professional type videography that you've used?
It is.
Yeah.
It's been all me and my iPhone.
Nice.
Until now.
Yeah.
And I think it's in a way it's good to do it that way. Like it keeps it really authentic. But now's the time, like as I'm starting to explore the full-time avenue, it's like if you're working with brands, the content needs to be raised up a level, and you need to give them bang for their buck and something that they're going to be proud to share on their kind of socials as well. So
totally.
Yeah.
You're not fearful of creating video content specifically. Who do you look to for inspiration? Who do you maybe follow, or who do you pay attention to? Yeah,
I follow Alex Hormozy.
Yeah.
I find some of his content useful, some of it's a bit like, oh, come on, man. It seems like he's just such a beast, It like seems difficult to live up to that. But no one's going to be the source of truth for everything. But he's really good for that. I like to follow I follow a lot of rugby collectors as well. Like there's a big community of vintage collectors, so just kind of staying in touch with them. And at the end of the day, like that community is the community that supports my business. So I like to respond to messages and support whatever they're doing. And it's interesting. Like hobbyists put so much time and effort into their content. It might not be the most polished, but sometimes it's like got a lot of heart behind it, and you can learn a lot behind their passion and their ideas, and kind of reform that into something for yourself. I listen to a bit of the Diary of the CEO, Stephen Bartlett. Mm-hmm. Some good nuggets on there. I find often it's not really about business; it's more just about like the person behind the business, And he really has a amazing way of interviewing people that brings out their human side, which I really enjoy.
Totally.
And kind of reminds you that although these big successful people seem like perfect from the outside, that they're just humans like us, and
that's it.
The more people like that you talk to, the more that kind of rings true.
He makes a lot of them cry, doesn't he?
Yeah
Really
inspiring.
Did you see the what's his name, the Stephen who's the guy that was on The Voice? English guy, Simon Cowell.
I haven't listened to that one yet.
It was a good one.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah,
recommend it. Really good context.
My favorite one I've listened to recently was the Carr. What's his?
Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy Carr.
Yeah,
Jimmy Carr.
Yeah, really good.
Amazing from someone who's so crude. He's known for being probably the rudest comedian out there.
Right. Yeah.
But such a deep personality, and just so thoughtful and considered, and amazing nuggets on there, eh? So.
Yeah, absolutely. What you were mentioning earlier about the supply chain part of the business and sourcing the jerseys. What's the story with Thailand? Did you say
Thailand? Yeah.
So what's the gig there?
When you go and drop stuff off at the Salvation Army, you think that that'll just go into the store and it'll end up on the racks and someone will come in and buy it. But the reality is that there's way more clothing that's dumped than actually can be processed and sold.
Right.
So I haven't quite figured out how it gets there, but from what I understand, all this excess clothing that mainly the Western nations, produce, gets bundled up, weighed, and then sold by the kilogram to kind of second world countries. So Eastern Europe, Poland, Ukraine has a lot, and that kind of slowed down during the start of the war, and it's coming back now. And then Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, they buy a lot of it. And they know that, if I take 200 kilograms of clothing and I, this is in Thailand, where I'm not sure what the hourly rate is, but it's probably not huge.
Yeah.
If I sift through all the stuff, I'm going to find so many, like Ralph Lauren, I'm going to find so many high-end Adidas sneakers or Adidas original stuff. And then there's a very small subsection of these people who have realised that Kiwis, Aussies, Brits love rugby jerseys, and they're going through looking specifically for those. So... yeah, I managed to connect with a guy over there, and he helps me find them, and yeah, we've got a good little thing going on.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah,
interesting.
I know.
Is it just one around the world, one guy, or do you have multiple guys?
I've got a few now.
Yeah,
he's my most regular, so we have more of like a personal relationship, and I think he only finds stuff for me.
Yeah,
and that's easy for him. It's easy for me. It kind of works, and there are other people around the world who, you know, I message on WhatsApp, and I'm not their like sole customer, but if they find something, they'll just flick through a message and we'll go from there. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I would not have. I did not know that.
Yeah, and there's some crazy stats on like how much clothing waste there is in New Zealand, but that's one other element to the business, like, you know, recycling the stuff and bringing back some gems that have been lost to the supply chain. So bit of a jersey repatriation service, I call it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so it goes from here to Thailand and then back again. And does the guy, does he drop ship, or does he ship it back to you and then you on ship it, or?
No, he ships it back to me, and then I like store them all in New Zealand, because, you know, if you pay good money for something, you want it the next day or the day after, right? So
got it. Yeah.
Keep them all here and then ship them overnight within New Zealand. And in the past, I've used like the regular post to Aussie, but moving into a new fulfillment system. So yeah, upgrading that soon. So it'll be like 3-day post to Aussie, and then a few customers in the US and the UK, but that's pretty small at the moment, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
So
wow, exciting times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all happening, eh?
All go.
Yeah.
What about podcasts? Do you listen to many other than Diary of a CEO?
I'm not huge on podcasts, to be honest. I'm getting more into them in terms of like Shopify and Klaviyo, like just upskilling in terms of e-commerce. I used to listen to like some investing podcasts, so Equity Mates, and there's one about crypto back when I was like, what the hell is this? And I need to kind of upskill myself on it.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, used to listen to those. But yeah, now more into that, like, I need to learn how to use an email marketing tool, like chuck on a podcast while I'm folding up some jerseys, and kind of learn that direct skill and then go and apply it in the week after.
Yeah,
so,
nice. Yeah.
But like super specific. Diary of a CEO is probably the only one that I like listen to just for fun.
Yeah.
And then it's more like, yeah, searching a specific skill and then going and learning about it.
Yeah.
So
no, it's pretty similar to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting going to see him live in person.
Right.
Just how the information is very similar to his podcast and his video content, but I don't know, something about hearing it live, it just hit completely different. Just like was able to be absorbed in a totally different way. So highly recommend that if you ever get the chance.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I've got no idea. I mean, maybe the fact that you're there and like there's I guess both like financial and effort commitment attached to it. So maybe you're just more engaged in it. That could be a thing.
Right.
I just came up with that then. It's sort of logical, right?
It's logical. Also, do you think, well, I know personally, if I'm listening to a podcast, I'm usually doing something else. Like I don't often sit in an armchair and just put it on.
No, that's
so
true.
Maybe it's like you've gone there to listen to him.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it was because it was a show, like a produced show, that it's so like distilled and it's just like exactly what he wants to demonstrate or discuss, right? So it's not like the usual, not fluff, but the extraneous information that sometimes gets included.
Did you have much conversation afterwards? Like, did you see other people who had paid to go and like have a good chat outside, or?
Nah,
not
at all. I saw a few people that were like familiar, like a couple of people from Christchurch. Emily, I think, ran into someone that she knew, but yeah, there wasn't like mingling or networking or anything like that.
Because I was thinking maybe that would reinforce it. You know, how if you go and see like a movie and then you go and have a drink afterwards, like, and you talk through it, you remember that movie much better than you would otherwise.
Totally. There was definitely a lot of conversation with Emily, but I just meant in terms of like other people.
Yeah, gotcha.
I kind of didn't know what to expect, but I thought there could have been a bit of that. I thought it was going to be more of like a event where you could maybe like chat with people before and after, but
maybe a missed opportunity there, or something, a gap you could fill.
Sure, I mean, yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, you would think so, right? Like, it was a big event. There was a few thousand people.
Yeah,
and I just thought the exact same thing. I was like, these people are all relatively aligned, right?
Yes,
they've all got an interest in diverse CEO, therefore, you know, growth-minded, probably business, probably psychology, probably.
Right.
So definitely a cohort of people that are all somewhat aligned.
Yeah, gotcha.
So Tim Nackey. Yeah.
What a guy.
A
phenomenon.
A content creator. Has his day come and gone? That's the question I'm curious about.
Well, he's still going.
He is.
I started actually using that as a bit of a marketing tool because his like followers or the people who might find his content interesting. For those who don't know, Tim Nackey's how do you describe him? He's a gambling influencer?
A degenerate?
A friendly degenerate.
A friendly degenerate?
Yeah.
I would describe him as a personality.
Yeah.
A character, an online content creator.
A larrikin,
yeah. He's
all of the above.
He's a lad.
But also a very kind-hearted person from, I think, what I've seen.
Yep. Cool.
But yeah, he... basically, if you're into like watching someone play blackjack... and you're from New Zealand and you're into that kind of I don't know, just kind of there's a big cross section with like rugby and league fans and sports lovers and, you know, kind of the ACC fans, you know, the alternative cricket commentary collective,
right?
You know, Radio Hauraki, that kind of demographic.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much bang on my target audience, like rugby and league lovers, you know.
Yes.
So I was just commenting on his posts every day, and I'd pick up like a couple of followers each time.
Oh yeah.
Just try and say something outrageous or like I don't know. I'm not a natural like joke cracker, one-liner kind of person.
Not like he is.
No, not at all. Like his one-liners are hilarious. But I'd try and conjure something up, and every day, you know, someone would click on it. One time I got the top comment, I think. So that was pretty incredible. Like more likes than I've ever had on anything I've posted.
Right.
But yeah, you just trickle in like 5 or 6 followers a day from that.
Yeah, cool.
So that was cool. And then, you know, I'd been following his stuff for a while, and I realized he commented, or he replied to one of my comments. He's like, "Love your work, mate. Got one of your jerseys last year." So I was like, "No way!" You know, this guy who's just absolutely like ballooning online is a customer. So I reached out to him. I was like, "Mate, that's unreal. Like does it fit all good? Do you need anything else?" And he's like, "Nah, man, it's all good. Like, I've got what I need, and I'll put it on tomorrow for you." So next day, he's playing blackjack in the jersey.
Wow, that's cool.
He didn't win the hand that day.
Ooh.
So I guess it was maybe a bit of bad luck. But
what jersey was it?
It was just a 1993 All Blacks jersey.
Oh yeah.
So, Canterbury and New Zealand on the right chest and All Blacks on the left chest, plain, like clean, really nice one.
Yeah,
so,
gotcha. What's the approximate value of that?
That one's about $190 to $200.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
And they vary massively depending on size as well. So like a size medium, for example, would be worth maybe 30% less than like a size large, and then again for extra large. It's like extra large, 2XL, like the sweet spot.
Oh, really?
That's what people want.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, and what, anything over, is that 2XL big as they get, go? Or?
No, you can get... It depends. It really depends.
The
there are so many different brands and different like years for the same team. Some of them will have huge sizes, and some of them they'll stop at 2XL.
Right.
So it's really quite dependent.
What was that year of All Blacks jersey? The quite tight ones, like they went from like traditional fitting to tight.
Yeah, that would have been like 2002, 2003, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
they moved from Canterbury of New Zealand, you know, made down the road at Lane Walker Rudkin in Christchurch, to Adidas.
Gotcha.
So that was a big shift, and they were contract manufacturing them here, I think, for a while, and then has slowly been moved offshore, and of course most things are made in China now. But that was a pretty big shift, and I think that's where the whole vintage rugby market is from, right? Because people still want, you know, this kind of fit, like loose, comfortable.
Yeah,
it's not polyester, it's cotton.
Yeah.
and it can kind of hide a beer belly. You've developed one in your non-playing years, or before them, as some people do, who like a few beers.
That's so good.
Yeah, so I think you've pinpointed the moment at which my business became viable.
I was just thinking, and I don't really know too much about rugby, but I just remember that moment. Like I remember when there was like such a big shift, right, to go from those sort of fitting jerseys, looser, more comfortable, to the holy shit, that thing's like lycra, it's skin tight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's the new company that's manufacturing the All Blacks jerseys? Is it?
So the All Blacks have remained with Adidas.
Oh, right.
And that is a 25-year relationship now.
Oh, wow.
So that's that they just released a line of Adidas Originals to celebrate that.
Right.
It's the shoes, the tracksuit, all those kind of like streetwear pieces.
Yeah.
And then the company, so they used to do all the Super Rugby stuff as well back for 25 years, and they've just ended that relationship and started with a company called Classic Sportswear.
Right.
That's based out of Australia. So that's who I have my relationship for new gear with. And I'm hoping to find some new relationships like that in the next year. My big goal would be to get the Warriors.
Right.
Of course, the Up the Wars movement last year.
Yeah, what a
familiar
movement.
with that?
Yeah, I mean,
that is a social movement.
Totally interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has that what came first? The whole like heightened awareness of the Warriors, or was it the Up the Wars? Was it a simultaneous thing?
That's a good question.
I don't really follow, so I don't really know.
Well, I'll give you a bit of history. So, I mean, the Warriors are the only rugby league team. Rugby league, I'm reading a book right now on the history of rugby league from like the people's perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Way back in the day. And so this is why it's big on the West Coast. It's like a real working man's game. Basically, rugby union's like elite. And back in, we're talking like late early 1900s, you weren't allowed to be paid to play. And so this became a problem for people who are like working in the coal mines. It's like, if I go and play for New Zealand or England or whoever, and I'm away from my family for 2 months, like no one's going to feed them.
Yeah, right.
So then this breakaway sport started where businessmen would sponsor and people would get paid. So that's how rugby league formed. And that's why Greymouth's a stronghold for it, because all those coal mines back in the day.
Yeah.
Going well off the question though. So the Warriors, the only professional rugby league team in New Zealand besides the national team. And they've got this like groundswell of working class support that, born and bred in South Auckland and spread across the country. They've never won a championship. And then last year there were like flickers of hope,
Right.
For the first time in over... The last time we had the grand final was 2011, and then it was like, wow, we've actually got the team who could like shake up the comp this year.
Right.
They didn't win, and it wasn't too surprising when they got bundled out in the semis, but that was like the furthest that we'd got.
Right.
And I think it was like 8 years or so since we last made the knockouts. So
when did the Warriors begin? When was the first year?
1995.
Right.
Was their first season, and then they had 2 years before that when they were like kind of bringing things together and starting the marketing and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
does someone own it, or is it a organization, or how does it work?
There is an owner, and name escapes me.
But
it'd be worth looking into.
Privately owned though.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because the rugby teams aren't owned, are they?
No, they're all centrally owned by, or at least part owned by New Zealand Rugby.
Right. So it's not like in the States when someone owns the teams.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think they're also part owned by the local rugby union, so Canterbury Rugby Union. I actually have to look into that though. I'm not sure about these things. So one of my takeaways from this is that I need to study up on the ownership arrangements for the New Zealand Super Rugby teams.
Yeah, I just find that kind of thing interesting.
Yeah. See, I'm way down here in the granular.
The granular, yeah.
Pull out and look at the bigger like business picture of sports from time to time, eh?
I guess because maybe I'm not such a avid fan of the granular or the actual game itself, the business side of it fascinates me.
Yeah.
And so that's where my sort of interest lies, right? Yeah. And I think sponsorship as well, that's something that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know much about that side of it. Jersey sponsors and, the commercial side of it.
I've learned a little bit this year about the like front of jersey sponsors, because the Crusaders actually didn't have one on the retail jersey, and they switched between 3 sponsors in 1 year.
Right.
So then I kind of got a bit curious and asked around about that and why that happened, and I haven't quite got to the bottom of it, but I learned kind of a bit of the money behind it, and
What is the rough kind of number around that? Do you know?
I think this is anecdotal.
Yeah.
I think it's around like 400 to 500 grand for a year.
For a season.
For all those eyeballs, it's pretty. Yeah, for if you're a big business and you can afford it, I'd say it's not a bad investment, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially given that there's people like yourself peddling the jerseys after the fact.
Exactly.
For however many years to come, right?
And those photos will stay online forever.
Yeah.
People, if it's a successful season, people are going to be proudly like making posters of those and more content in future, especially with Instagram now and social media. Like that value for the sponsor just gets compounded over and over again.
Yeah, totally.
Also competing for eyeballs, of course, but there's a lot more sponsorship now than perhaps there used to be.
True.
But,
different as well, right? Like just looking at that jersey there, the DB draft, like you probably can't even advertise boots now, can you?
No, you can't.
No,
not on jerseys,
right.
Or I think gambling as well. You can't do in New Zealand. Of course, different countries have different rules, and it's funny, like the value of beer jerseys is higher than non-beer jerseys.
Really?
So if it's got a DV draft or Spates,
right?
The old Otago jerseys with Spates on them.
Yeah,
there's one that had a beautiful like embroidered patch. So it's like Otago and then Spates. Like those are just absolutely sought after by Southerners. So
they love it.
Yeah, and Lion Red. There's a Northland jersey with Lion Red on it, and people just go nuts for them. Waikato with Waikato draft.
Yeah.
So like it's all super regional. Of course, DB draft is over here. It should be Monteith's though.
It should be really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
because I think Monteith's is owned by DB, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd think that would have been. I guess Monteith's wasn't always as cool as it is now.
No.
It
was always cool on the coast though.
Yeah, I mean, especially when especially when they made it there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I found there was a point at which the quality went down, and it was like right about the time that I started, that I was of age to drink.
Oh yeah.
They moved their manufacturing from because I still did a bit in Greymouth when I was like 16, 17. They did like craft brews there and stuff, but then that all got moved to Timaru. I think they've got the big brewery down there.
So the quality decreased, or did your consumption go up and the effects went?
Yeah, hard to pinpoint there, David. But it seemed to taste better when I was younger.
Did you have any Nahiri Gold?
No, I haven't had that before.
You haven't had that?
It was quite strong, isn't
careful,
it?
Yeah. It's very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love the name, but not for me.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but it doesn't have a defined alcohol percentage. They're not too sure.
Right.
Somewhere
because all the dregs, eh?
Oh yeah. I think it's like between 8 and 12%, depending on a few factors.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty funny.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Any final parting thoughts, topics, comments, jokes, one-liners?
Oh, I think we've talked a lot about rugby jerseys and not a heck of a lot about business.
No.
But I hope people listening learn something about it. Go check out the page.
Totally.
I think for me, being invited on here was like a real novelty. So thanks for having me on. And I like to think that in a few years' time, because I'm right at the start of probably like the defined business journey. I started the website a couple of years ago, but it was still like very much a side hustle, and I'm looking to upskill and that kind of thing. So hopefully tapping into a bit of your network and learning from your podcast going forward, that I can get more business savvy and kind of take this now where I've got a bit of a passion and some experience of making content and turn that into something bigger and have some opportunities come out of it.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's a really good point around business, is just getting around the right people, getting around people that are doing stuff, and helping to eliminate or reduce those limiting beliefs that we all sometimes tend to come up against, right?
Yeah.
I can't do this, or I'm not good enough for this, or I'll always be this size. It doesn't really matter what it is, but I think the more people that you get around that are doing stuff and growing and scaling and doing stuff that's maybe bigger than what you thought was possible.
Yep.
That's hugely important. I think like IHF, we brought that up before. Great example of running into a lot of people that are doing stuff.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely inspiring, eh?
Yeah.
And a good example of like those self-limiting beliefs. When I started off, I like never even put myself on the camera, you know?
Right.
So the content, a bit like this podcast maybe, was all about the rugby jerseys. And I found as soon as I, plucked up the courage to put myself out there and kind of get over that fear of exposure and, people going to think this is stupid or, judge me for it. As soon as I got over that, like followers went way up, sales went way up, like everyone started relating to it, and just like, I thought that was so hard, and now it's kind of, I won't say it's second nature, you've still got to think about it, but it's like, it's a lot more comfortable, and
it's a really good reminder to put yourself out there and do things that are uncomfortable. I was thinking back to a video that I did at the Hokitika Gorge of all places. It was over Christmas. Beautiful spot, right?
Yeah.
And it was back when I did like a little preview video of the podcast, of the upcoming one, before like we had it edited.
Right.
And I could directly attribute a new coaching client to that video.
Right.
Someone saw it and it's like, hey, that's cool. Like this guy's putting himself out there, like he's making a video in public with like tourists in the background and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's always easy, but I think the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think when you start hearing stories like that and getting some validation that, A, it's not that scary to do, and B, good things come from it.
Yep.
Then it's a really positive, self-fulfilling prophecy that you can do more of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Not give as many cares about what other people think and just rip into it.
Well, that's a big thing, eh? And you learn that the good people support you, and if people judge you for what you're doing, then they're probably not actually your mates.
That's right.
So you kind of naturally drift apart from them, and also most people are busy as, and they're way more interested in themselves than you. So if you make a really average piece of content,
it really doesn't matter, right?
And you're like, oh, that one didn't perform too well, but at the end of the day, you make another one and then that one does go well and people are like, oh, we saw that one, and
that's right.
It kind of goes off.
What's your rule on multiple takes? Do you have a one take rule, or do you perfect it, or what's your theory there?
I don't have a set rule, but I have a bit of an 80-20 principle. So kind of
80% is good enough.
If it's 80% of what I'd like it to be, then lock it in, move it on to the next take. If it's 50%, it's like, all right, shoot it again.
Can do better.
But yeah, that action over perfection's a real mantra that I'm kind of trying to live by at the moment. And it's didn't know how to use Klaviyo, the email software that I'm using at the moment, but give it a crack, learn it on the job, listen to podcasts, get in that mindset. And 1 month in, and it's been 20% of my revenue this month. So
wow, awesome.
And the content hasn't been that good.
Right.
That's probably below 80%. It's been far from perfect. It was just slap a few, welcome email together, tell a bit of my story, and then send out a few tidbits of information week to week. And I see you send out an email every week as well.
I do, yeah, I do. Yeah, it's not anything overly sophisticated. It's just purely about I guess communicating to my audience. I'm in such a routine now, it's every week, so I just see it as a good way to spend an hour, and weirdly quite like doing it. So.
You use it almost as a journal, I've seen.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably some untapped value that I'm not getting into. I'm not too familiar with Klaviyo personally, but I do love what you can do with sequencing and automations and that. It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's. I don't know if it's Klaviyo or Klaviyo, whatever it is.
We're unsure.
The one that starts with K.
The K one.
It's very much focused at e-commerce. So it's probably not
in there. Yeah.
It's probably not great because it's quite expensive for that reason. It plugs into Shopify and completely integrates. So it pulls out some fantastic data that I'm still learning how to harness. But if you're not, if your aim is community building, probably not the software for you.
Got it.
What do you use?
Just HubSpot.
Not
nice. Just HubSpot. I use HubSpot.
You use HubSpot.
Yeah. There's no need to.
You use HubSpot.
I use HubSpot.
Yeah. Got to be the world leading CRM.
I guess the reason why I have that tone was that it's a free platform.
Yeah.
But it's
so you're
great.
just on free.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have been using it for years. I've often wanted to upgrade just because I've had so much value from it.
Yeah.
If anyone asks what to use for a CRM, it's like probably HubSpot.
Yeah.
Unless you're a large business.
Because it's Salesforce, right?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah. In my opinion. I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
Yeah, for
A lot
sure.
of people are using Notion now. A lot of people are getting around that. Yeah, don't know.
Yeah.
I think with HubSpot being such a all-encompassing free platform, I personally see it as a no-brainer.
Yeah, good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I enjoy reading through them each week. So.
oh, do you? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's as I say, it's an experiment for me. Having done it almost a year now, so once a week. Yes, it's a part like journal, partly like communication, but I feel like the more I do it, the easier it gets and the more traction it gets. So
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just going to continue investing that hour and see what happens.
Worst case, you've got something to look back on and see what you got up to in the 23rd week of 2024.
Yeah, it's a good point.
You know?
Yeah, it's a really good point.
What was I up to back then?
And I mean, if you look at the annual commitment of time, so 52 times 1 hour is 50.
Couple of days. Damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not overly overwhelming, right?
No.
No,
And it's time to sit down, reflect,
exactly.
like an intentional time.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Very good, my friend. Well, I do need to shoot off to an event now.
yeah, you got a big day.
Yeah, it's been a huge day.
I bet 120 episodes ago you couldn't have had 2 events around a podcast, and now look at you.
No, you're probably right.
So
yeah, but that's evolution, and that is the beauty of being able to look back. So
absolutely.
very grateful for that. Cool,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me on.
We'll link Boomfa below.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, super exciting. I can't wait to see where the journey leads and
Yep.
what's happening in a year's time.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
See you back in the next one.
Will do.